What if everything you thought you knew about eating well was only half the story? I want you to imagine waking up on a Monday morning, standing in front of your kitchen, and making a decision, a real, committed, no turning back decision to eat only a specific set of foods for an entire week. No cheat meals. No sneaking a biscuit at midnight. Just pure, deliberate, intentional eating. That's exactly what I did, and by the time Sunday rolled around, something had shifted not just in how I looked, but in how I felt, how I thought, and honestly, how I saw food itself. This is that story, and I promise you, it's not what you expect. The decision that started everything, it didn't come from a place of desperation. I wasn't chasing a dramatic transformation or trying to drop weight before some big event. It came from a quieter place, a growing frustration with feeling sluggish, foggy, and oddly disconnected from my own body. I was eating, sure, but I wasn't really nourishing myself. There's a difference, and most of us don't notice it until something forces us to stop and pay attention. So I did my research. I spent time looking into foods that are consistently celebrated by nutritionists, longevity researchers, and everyday people who have made remarkable changes simply by adjusting what they put on their plates. I didn't want a crash diet. I didn't want a gimmick. I wanted to build a short, focused experiment one full week to see what real, deliberate eating could actually do to a human body. The foods I chose weren't exotic or wildly expensive. They were accessible, whole, and backed by a strong body of nutritional thinking. We're talking about foods like leafy green spinach, kale, arugula alongside eggs, oats, berries, salmon, legumes, nuts, sweet potatoes, and water with a squeeze of lemon to start every morning. That was it. No processed snacks. No refined sugars, no takeout containers stacked by the door. Simple? On paper, yes. In practice, a completely different story. Day 1, the hunger you don't expect the first morning felt optimistic. I made a bowl of oats with a handful of blueberries and some crushed walnuts on top, and honestly, it tasted good. I felt good. I felt like someone who had their life together. By mid-afternoon, something shifted. Not hunger exactly, but a kind of restlessness. My brain kept reaching for something crunchy, something sweet, something familiar. I realized in that moment that so much of what I usually eat isn't about hunger at all. It's about habit. It's about comfort. It's about the way food has become tied to boredom, to stress, to reward. That first evening, I sat with a plate of baked salmon, roasted sweet potato, and a side of sauteed spinach with garlic, and I made myself eat slowly, actually slowly setting the fork down between bites, actually tasting what was in front of me. It felt strange, almost uncomfortable, which told me everything I needed to know about how disconnected I'd become from the act of eating itself. I went to bed that night not sure if I could do 6 more days of this, and that uncertainty? It turned out to be the most important part of the whole experience. The middle of the week, where things got interesting by the 3rd day, something quiet began to happen. The cravings didn't disappear, let me be honest with you. They didn't, but they became easier to observe rather than obey. I noticed I was waking up before my alarm, not dramatically, not with some cinematic burst of energy, but gently, naturally, like my body had found a rhythm it recognized. My digestion, which I had honestly never paid much attention to before, became noticeably smoother. The bloating I'd grown so used to carrying around that I'd stopped even registering it, it started to ease. My skin by the middle of the week looked calmer, less reactive. There's a reason so many skin specialists trace breakouts and inflammation back to diet, and I was beginning to understand that connection in a way that no article had ever quite made real for me before. But here's the part I really want you to hear, because this is where the experiment stopped being about food. Around day 4, I noticed my thinking was clearer. Not sharper in some superhuman way, I'm not going to make that claim, but cleaner, less cluttered. I was reading more, finishing tasks I'd been putting off, and feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Present, genuinely, quietly present in my own day. Scientists and researchers have spent years exploring the gut-brain connection, and while there's still so much to learn, there is a growing body of evidence suggesting that what we feed our gut has a measurable effect on our mood, our focus, and our mental clarity. Living inside that science for a week made it feel less like theory and more like lived experience. Day 7. The moment everything clicked, I won't pretend the week was easy from start to finish. There were moments of real craving, social moments especially, when people around me were eating things I'd chosen to set aside, and the pull was strong. There's a social dimension to food that doesn't get talked about enough. Food is connection. Food is celebration. Removing certain foods, even temporarily, can make you feel oddly separate from the people around you. But on the final day 7, I sat down with my last meal of the week, a big colorful salad packed with leafy greens, chickpeas, cucumber, avocado, and a simple lemon olive oil dressing, and I felt something I hadn't expected at all. I felt grateful, not for completing the challenge, though there was certainly some satisfaction in that, but grateful for the awareness it had given me. Grateful for the reminder that my body is always communicating with me through energy levels, through sleep quality, through mood, through clarity, and that I had been too busy, too distracted, too reach for something easy to listen. The changes I experienced over those 7 days weren't dramatic in a visual sense. I wasn't unrecognizable, but something had recalibrated. Something had reset. And perhaps more importantly, my relationship with food, the way I thought about it, chose it, and experienced it, had fundamentally shifted. What I learned that no one tells you here's the thing about food experiments like this, and I say this with full honesty. The physical changes are real, but they're almost secondary to the mental ones. The act of choosing deliberately, of saying this and not that for an extended, intentional period of time does something to you psychologically. It proves to you that you are capable of more than you think. It shows you the gap between autopilot and awareness. And once you've seen that gap, you can't unsee it. I'm not here to tell you that this specific set of foods is the answer for everyone. Bodies are different. Needs are different. Cultures and traditions and access to food are all different, and any honest conversation about nutrition has to hold space for that complexity. What I am telling you is that for me, for these 7 days, eating with intention, eating whole foods, eating slowly and deliberately changed something real. And if you've ever felt that restless, foggy, slightly disconnected feeling that I described at the beginning of this video, then maybe, just maybe, a version of this experiment is worth exploring for yourself. Before you go, we are living in a time where food choices are everywhere. Supermarkets are full of options, social media is full of advice, and every week there seems to be a new diet trend, a new superfood, or a new warning about something we've been eating for years. One expert says eat this, another says avoid it completely. One study praises a certain ingredient while another calls it harmful. In all this noise, it has become easier to feel confused than confident about what we should actually put on our plates. The irony is that while we have more information about nutrition than ever before, many people feel more lost than ever. We are constantly switching between diets, trying to follow rules, and second-guessing our own choices. Eating, which was once a simple and natural act, has turned into something complicated and stressful. But sometimes clarity doesn't come from adding more information, it comes from stepping back, from slowing down, from removing the pressure to follow every trend and instead focusing on what actually matters. Not every piece of advice needs to be followed. Not every new study needs to change your entire routine. What often gets forgotten in all this external noise is the simplest guide we already have, our own body. Your body gives signals every day how you feel after eating certain foods, your energy levels, your digestion, your mood. These signals are personal, consistent, and far more relevant than general trends online. Maybe the answer isn't in chasing the perfect diet, but in building awareness, eating more intentionally, paying attention to what truly nourishes you, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. In the end, food is not just about rules or restrictions. It's about connection with your body, your needs, and your well-being. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply slow down, tune out the noise, and start listening to what your body has been trying to tell you all along.